What is nostalgia? Basically, the sentimental longing for events in the past. The single main catalyst and drive into a lot of the things that I do today, especially this here podcast. I love thinking back and reminiscing on a time when I was a child, when I had zero worries, zero bills, raw and pure and innocent, experiencing things for the first time, something that you can never experience again. And those moments I often reflect on. And that's why we're here today. I want to think back, reminisce on the simpler times, times when you and I had the most fun of any moment in our existence. So I'd like to present to you a very personal an adventure down memory lane and what I like to call ultra nostalgia. You're now listening to the Sauce Talk Podcast. What up, everybody? It's your boy Al Siggity Sauce, and welcome back to the Sauce Talk Podcast. Happy New Year, everybody. I have been sick down in the dumps for the past 2 weeks. I tried to record this episode like fucking 2 times, but I've been unable to. I still have a stuffy nose, but I'm coming out on the positive side of things finally, and I just couldn't wait to get in here to record this episode. So this is another solo episode. It's my second one I've ever done, and this one's going to focus on nostalgia. You all know me. You know everything that I do revolves around said word. I really, truly love to reminisce on the past. I guess because when we're all kids, we're in our purest form, we're innocent, and we don't have a care in the world. Careless fun. We're discovering things for the first time ever when we're kids. And I really hold on to those moments, especially being a child and just having fun. And now that I have a kid myself, I see him growing up, see the things that he experiences. And I think back like, man, the toys that he's into now, what was I into back then? And like, what did we do for fun? And, you know, it's 2 totally different worlds because I kind of grew up in that sweet spot. I was born in 1986. I was a freshman in the year 2000. So like, I really got to go through all those stages. Like now, a year is like 10, 20 years than what it was when I was a kid as far as how fast technology moves forward and stuff. So I was there for the VHS, for the Betamax, for the CD, for the record, for the cassette, and I got to see all this technology just like sit there and get better and better every year. And things happen today that I would never imagine would ever happen. And that also goes for toys. I mean, look now, I have one of them. I haven't even opened it yet. They have transformers that transform on their own via voice command. I mean, I never as a kid would ever fucking imagine that something like that could take place. Look at the iPhone, for instance. I mean, when I was growing up, I didn't even have cell phones. Cell phones were in fucking cars, them big ass fucking suitcase things. You know what I mean? And then now they're the size of your fucking fingernail. I mean, it's absolutely bonkers. So with that being said, I really enjoy to go back and think on what life was like as a kid and like what we did in school that was mischievous or, just there was such a purity in the innocence and the lack of responsibility that was a real special time, for me. And, now that I'm an adult and I collect toys and stuff and video games all over again, it's what we do is you're going back onto the time when reality didn't smack you in the fucking face like a ton of bricks. You lived, you experienced, and you enjoyed, and you loved every moment of it. And I love to just sit there. And one of my favorite things ever is when I had my high school reunion, and I didn't go to the first one. So I went to the second one last year, and it was one of the craziest times I ever had because we sat there, we all gathered around, we had some drinks, and we just sat there and talked and just reminisced on kids that we haven't seen in years. And we went through yearbooks and I pulled them up on my phone. It was nuts. I mean, to talk about butterflies, like that's the shit that gets me going, is remembering, the simpler times, the times when I enjoyed life the most. Now, it doesn't mean I don't enjoy life now. I love life now, especially that I have a kid, but it's just, it's different, man. When you think of being a kid and just like remembering things, it's a very special time. And that's kind of why I wanted to gather here today and talk about this. I see a lot of memes on the internet and like things that just make me giggle, thinking back like when I was a jerk off in school and the little things that we did to either be funny or mischievous, and the toys we collected and the things we made, because like I said, it is a different time. And the fact that it's a different time, and we had to be innovative. We had to do things that, we didn't have all this technology. And even though we had video games, we was outside. We were playing outside a lot more than kids do now. I mean, now when it comes to driver's licenses, like I couldn't fucking wait to get a driver's license. Forget it now. Kids, like, they're not even in a rush to get it. Like, I couldn't wait to get my permit and have that class in school and take the test and go there with my, like, it was nuts. The fact that I finally had my car and I was like, oh my God, I could do whatever the fuck I want. I could go wherever I want. And nobody could tell me anything about it. I mean, that was crazy, the freedom. But now kids can fucking go on their fucking phone and they could just take an Uber anywhere on their daddy's credit card. It's a different time. It's not that it's bad, it's evolution. I mean, it is what it is. There's bad and good, right? There's pros and cons to everything in life. But it's just the fact that to go back and think on the pioneering stages for so much of what I'm going to talk to you tonight. And a lot of the stuff I'm going to bring up is just straight up jerk off shit. But I know you're all going to hear some of this stuff. You're going to be like, wow, I forgot all about that stuff. And to be honest, this is titled Ultra Nostalgic, not to be confused with Frank Ocean's Nostalgia Ultra. This is Ultra Nostalgia. And this might be a potential series depending on the reception that this episode has. But, I had so much fun thinking back and like just trying to remember like all these little things that were special to me when I was a kid. And, these solo podcasts are going to act almost as like journal entries, little small, windows into my life, whether they're good or bad, it doesn't matter. They make me up. And I know they're going to be highly relatable on many levels. So I just kind of want to go through a little journey tonight and sit here and think about all the things of yesteryear, that was wild. And, when I think back on nostalgia and things that I remember when I was a kid that I had fun doing, one thing that I remember is my mom basically was a single mother from like first grade on, like permanently. And, since she's a woman, I would have to go with her to all the stores that I despise, which would be Mandy's. I know you all, if you're an OG, you know exactly what Mandy's is. And I fucking hated it because my mom would take forever in there. I'd be so bored. We didn't have phones. We didn't have this stuff back then. So you had to really be creative if you didn't want to be bored. I mean, who the hell wants to look at women's clothes every day and shoes and heels and all that stuff? So what I did is I would do something called hide in clothing racks. You guys remember doing that? When you go to a clothing store, they might have a little circle rack with all the, the hangers on it with the clothes, the jackets, the pants and all that. But if you could weed through all that stuff, you could hide right in the middle because you're a kid. You're 5, you're 6, my son's age. And you could sit there and you could hide in these racks and you would make scenarios up in your head, little games and stuff. And I mean, that's what you did, man. And especially me because I was an only child. I didn't have any brothers or sisters. So I really had to be creative and my imagination would just run wild, which is why nowadays I create so many weird toys and pins and all this crazy stuff. And I try to bring my imagination to life because that's what I had when I was a kid. I didn't have an older brother or sister to look after or even a younger brother or sister to sit there and just, share all my stuff with. So I always had a vast imagination. And that was one of my favorite things to do ever. And I hope you all remember doing that, is hiding in the clothing racks whenever you were at a department store or a Mandy's or a Macy's, wherever you had to go. That was like one of my favorite things to do. Also, I also hated food shopping. Could not fucking stand going to the supermarket. And there's one thing that I remember now, and it's wild because when I was a kid going to the supermarket, it's something that now as an adult, I forgot about. And I've been going to the supermarket as an adult for a while now. I'm 39 years old. I'm going to be 40 in March, and we're in January right now. And you know, it's crazy because I didn't notice this till last year, and it made me totally forget about it. What I'm talking about is supermarket gap fillers. Do you guys remember that stuff? Now, you're going to think I'm a little crazy because I guarantee you, most of you adults now do not remember this stuff. But when I bring it up and I describe what I'm speaking of, you're going to remember exactly what I mean. When you go to a supermarket, this was a tactic done by supermarkets so that the kids could bother their parents to buy them toys. Let's say you're in the cereal aisle or even the soup can aisle. There's racks, and then there's gaps in between the racks where the rack would end and the next aisle would continue. You know, it'd be like sections. And in the middle, they would put on those racks little toys on hangers in between. They called them gap fillers. Or they would even have them on the end caps on the end of each aisle. And that was there to basically entice the kid to beg the parent to buy them the toys. But you would get all these weird little toys sitting in those racks. And, you know, I used to love going to the supermarket when I was a kid because that would occupy my brain and it would make me want something, and it would help you shut up, you know. Okay, here, I'll get you this toy water gun. Just be quiet, and you pull it off, and it'd be right next to a fucking Campbell's soup can. And as an adult, those things disappear from your mind. It's weird because one day I was walking in the supermarket shopping with my wife, and all of a sudden I noticed there was like cap guns or something. I'm like, holy shit, I forgot that this was a thing, that supermarket gap fillers were absolutely a thing. And now I can't unsee them. Now I went to the supermarket the other day specifically to look just for this. Now, not only do they have toys, they'll have like other things like little Tupperware boxes and shit like that that other people would want. But it's just so crazy that in between these end caps or the gap fillers, you would see these little toys. And it's absolutely bizarre because, like I said, as an adult, you forget those things. And that's why I really love to sit here and reflect and just think about those things. So do you guys remember supermarket gap fillers where they would have a bunch of little mini toys and things of that nature? Now, of course, these toys weren't high end. You know, these weren't Hasbro wrestlers. These were like really cheap Chinese Oriental Trading. Another nostalgic magazine. Do you guys remember Oriental Trading? They would have all this crazy little Chinese toys, but it would be stuff like that. Stuff that you would find in a Krauser's or a Five and Dime, which is a mom and pop shop. And you'd sit there, and those are the kind of toys they would have. And one of the toys that they would have in these establishments are clackers. Who the fuck remembers clackers? Now, there's a couple of different types of clackers. Now, I grew up in the 90s. So most of the clackers that you would find is the stuff that I would find in these supermarket gap fillers, where there are two balls that obviously clack together, but they were adhered to this plastic handle, and you would sit there and go, and go, you know, you'd go crazy and go bananas. Sometimes you'd get the bigger balls and you get the skinnier balls. They were clackers. Now, back in the day, back in my parents' day, clackers came on a string. Okay, it would be a string with these two wooden red balls at the end, and these fucking things would murder you. They were dangerous. If you knew what a clacker was, you sit there and you hold it, and then all of a sudden, boom, it hit your fucking, it would ruin your knuckle, absolutely destroy you. And what's so funny about clackers, especially the vintage ones, is I'm a big sketch comedy fan. Now, one of my favorite sketch comedy shows of all time is rather obscure. It's called The Vacant Lot. It only ran for, I think, even maybe one season. One of the guys was brothers with one of the guys in Kids in the Hall. These guys were from Canada. It was a fantastic show. And you could see all these episodes on YouTube if you want to look for it. I recommend you do because it's a fantastic sketch comedy show. If anybody wants to holler about sketch comedy shows, I might even do an episode based on those and do like a top 10 because I love sketch comedy shows. But anyway, The Vacant Lot was a rather obscure one, but it was a fantastic one. There was episode 3, there was a burglar skit. So this guy, basically, he's a burglar and there's a dog in the house. The people aren't home, but the dog is. And he's sitting here creeping around and he goes and he's trying to steal some stuff and he finds these clackers. So like they revisit this in the episode a couple of different times, like later on in the episode. And it's him doing the clackers and he gets a good rhythm and then he destroys himself and he starts getting hit and bleeding. And whenever I think of clackers, that's like the first thing I think of is the Vacant Lot obscure episode, and I loved clackers. And if you remember clackers, I know you're watching this dying, because those things destroyed in a generation. They ruined. They probably are the reason why people have fucking carpal tunnel syndrome, because those things were nutty. Besides clackers, lots of things back in the day, everybody did. Everybody collected sports cards and, things of that nature. And I did. Even though I didn't like sports, you couldn't tell me nothing. I had Topps. I had all this shit. And the one thing about sports cards, or wax packs rather, because cards nowadays, they don't even come in wax packs. So if you're a younger kid and you don't know what a wax pack is the actual package was basically coated in like a wax, and it was folded in a way that you would open it, you would tear it open, and then there'd be a fucking stick of gum in the sport, whether it would be baseball or basketball, and there'd be a fucking literal stick of gum. And this was the most, if you remember wax pack trading card gum, this stuff was absolutely atrocious. I mean, the amount of chemicals that must have been it was like you were chewing a piece of plastic, literally. It was like a straight up, it was kind of like you ever have when you were a kid, those crackers with the cheese spread, and it would come with that red stick, bro. You might as well have gave me that shit so I could chew on a bunch of fucking plastic, because that's exactly what it was. It was a powdery stick of this, you'd bite it and it would almost break to a million fucking pieces. But that's something that's removed. Like, could you imagine opening a pack of Pokemon cards nowadays, like a Phantasmal Flames or whatever it's called, a Mega Evolution pack, and you see a fucking stick of gum? I mean, I've been tempted to buy a pack of these wax packs and try chewing one of these pieces of gum, because these things were fucking horrible. If you thought Bazooka Joe was hard, no, this was different. This was more like a fucking an altar boy cracker in a church. It was super thin and hard and rock and super pink. It was absolutely disgusting. But since we're on the topic of wax pack trading cards, who remembers the Fleer cards from 1994, the Beavis and Butthead ones? And the reason I'm bringing them up is because I have a story for you. A fucking terrible story. If you collected these cards back in the day, there was 150 base cards, right? And there was 10 what we call chase cards, rarer cards, that didn't pop up. I'm not sure how many were in, one of every 2,000, whatever it was. But these were chase cards, and they were scratch and sniff. And boy, were they insane. So I celebrated. My mom made sure, I was an only child, so I celebrated all the holidays and got all the gifts. So I had the Christmas, and then I'm Puerto Rican, so we celebrated the Three Kings. And I would get gifts for that. And then Easter, she would provide me an Easter basket, but actually put like real gifts in it. She wouldn't just put candy. She would put like real, actual gifts in it. And one year I got these Fleer 1994 Beavis and Butthead trading cards. And boy, there was one card, I believe it was called Our Office's card. And it's basically a cartoon card, right? But it looks like Beavis and Butthead's feet behind a stall. So the stall doors are closed. They're taking a shit, basically. Let me tell you something. I was a kid. I got that. And they also gave me a Beavis and Butthead book. I forget the name of the fucking book. If I find it, I'll throw it up on here. It was a great book. A bunch of illustrations and stuff like that. But I'll never forget this shit. I wasn't really feeling good that morning, and I opened this set, and I had the Our Office's card, and I scratched and sniffed it. Let me tell you something. The fucking smell that came from this card, and anybody who has these cards, you know what I'm talking about. It didn't even smell like shit, dude. It smelled like rotten eggs, sulfur. Dude, immediately after I scratched and sniffed this card, I literally ran to the bathroom and fucking vomited in the garbage can. I didn't even make it to the porcelain gods. I literally vomited from the scent that came off of this scratch and sniff card. I mean, I don't know many people on the planet that can honestly say that they sat there and scratched and sniffed the fucking card and they fucking vomited because of it. I mean, it was one of the worst experiences I've ever had in my fucking life. So who out there remembers 1994 Fleer Beavis and Butthead fucking chase scratch and sniff cards? Oh, they were fucking absolutely terrible. So anyway, that was in my younger years. And, I hated school. I could not stand school in the slightest. But I had a lot of fun in school, oddly enough. Obviously, anything that didn't have to do with academia or any sort of, book work or whatever the case may be. I loved school. I had a lot of fun there. I loved getting ready, getting your fresh gear on the first day of school. And one of the most significant moments that I've ever had or thought of when I think about the first day of school and getting that fresh outfit was 1996. I was in 5th grade and I had a Penny Hardaway jersey, and my mom bought me my favorite basketball shoes of all time. The Nike Air Penny 2 Atlantic blue colorway with the white and the 3M Nike bubble by the ankle. That stuff changed everything for me. See, I liked basketball then, and Jordan was my favorite player, but cats really loved Penny Hardaway. Like, Penny Hardaway was that dude back in the day. And when you were a kid and you were shopping on the East Bay catalog and you wanted that shit, my mom made sure I was fresh. And I'll never forget, I wish I had a fucking picture of me wearing the authentic Penny Hardaway jersey with the Penny 2 Atlantic blue. Now, I actually have those shoes still. I have 2 pairs of them in my adult size, and I have an OG one from 96 still. Icy, fresh. Or maybe I'll pop a picture of those up too, but I'll never forget that. But that was a thing, man. Like, I don't remember kids really. I mean, high school now, I guess so, because sneakers are very popular now. I think kids worry about getting fresh now and stuff like that, but it was just different back then. You know what I mean? Like, you couldn't wait. And then before the next season, before the winter, you just got fresh, whatever you had. Whatever you had. I had the first down jacket, the bear jacket. I had it all, man. I mean, I was, like I said, I was an only child, so my mom really, really took care of me. But when it came to school and getting school supplies, not only obviously was it the gear, but it was the backpack and what you put inside that motherfucker. And we all love a trapper keeper, right? But what's even better than a trapper keeper? What is even better than the backpack? Now, when I went to school, I went to a rather suburban town called Verona, New Jersey. So a lot of cats out there, see, I had the JanSport. Who remembers the JanSport with the tire tread rubber bottom? That was flames. I love that fucking tire tread. I was rocking a JanSport, but a lot of the white kids in my school were rocking LL Bean. And I want somebody to tell me if they remember this as much as I do. I don't know why, but it was a thing, at least in my school, to put out a lot of slack in your LL Bean backpack. So the backpack kind of dragged, and when kids would walk with their LL Bean, the shit would swing and hit the back of their ass or the back of their kneecaps as they fucking walk. Like, why was that a trend? I used to look at these fucking kids like, what are you? They're walking down the street, ming, 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 ming. And this fucking thing's like a pendulum. This fucking LL Bean, it's got their name embroidered on the fucking, their initials on the fucking back. Boom. Boom. LL Bean had that signature green color. That green nylon, that parachute material that the fucking LL Beans had. I'll never forget the LL Beans. I never owned one, but it's fucking hilarious to just think about nowadays. Now, my favorite part of school was the equipment, the pens, the pencils. I mean, I had an extraordinary collection of these things when I was a kid. You all know me. Anybody that knows me knows I'm very meticulous. I collect a lot of different stuff, and I have a high appreciation to detail and quality. And I loved collecting pens and pencils. And one of my favorite pencil companies, whatever you call it, were Yikes pencils. I know, you gotta remember Yikes pencils. What's crazy about Yikes pencils is they hold their fucking value. Go look on eBay right now for Yikes pencils, all different types. One of my favorite ones was, I don't even know the name of it, but it was kind of like, the shaft of it kind of was like a triangle where like it would fit perfectly around your three. You could put your 3 fingers on it and it was just so comfortable. They had those, and they all had these weird, different, ornate rubber erasers on the tips. I mean, Yikes they were colorful. They were nice. The wood was dyed certain colors. You had some that were like fluorescent, and they had these foil wraps on them. Yikes pencils were incredible, and so was the logo. I love branding. I mean, that's one of my favorite things in life is typography and branding. And seeing the Yikes pencils packaging with the artwork, I mean, these things were fucking absolutely gorgeous. You know what? I got to start buying some old Yikes pencils. I mean, who remembers Yikes fucking pencils from when you were a kid? Not to mention book socks. I mean, who was excited out there to go to a book fair? Book socks were everything. Fuck the brown paper bag shit. Even though that took a little origami skill to do it. I know every mother and grandmother taught your kid how to do a brown paper bag wrap on your textbook, but the book sock hit different. You used to sit there with the book sock and you go smack, smack, smack. You remember sitting there peeling it? I can't even do the noise with my mouth. We used to love hitting the book sock, drawing on them with a marker, going from book to book. Cats used to put them on their heads like wave caps. Who remembers a book sock wave cap? This is what I'm saying. What's better than sitting here thinking about yesteryear when you were a kid? This shit. My son can't experience this stuff now. His experience is different. And when I try to compare the experiences, of course, I'm going to have that old head mentality like, oh, back in my day, you know, that type of shit. But it's so much fun and exhilarating to think back on that stuff. That's why I think that this is actually going to become a series, because I just love talking about the past. I love reliving my childhood. And also, when I think about my childhood, I think about my mother. So maybe that's another reason why I hold on to it so dear. Sorry for my nose. My nose is super clogged. It's absolutely horrendous, but it is what it is. But anyway, back in school, I entered middle school now, right? I told you I had the whole gear, the whole outfit. This is the mischievous years, man. I feel so sorry for a lot of the teachers that went to HB Whitehorn Middle School. I'll give you an example. We had a teacher named Miss Denisha. Out of all the kids that went to school, who remembers Miss Denisha? She had a fucking finger look like a Wayne Gretzky hockey stick. I can't even do it. I can't. She'd point at you, but the shit would be like this. I don't know if she had carpal tunnel. She was all fucked up, but her finger was shot. And we tormented this lady. I feel so bad. Let me put something into perspective for you what we did. Her classroom, 5th grade, was on the 2nd floor, right? Normal classroom, let's say you're looking at me right now, right? I'm the teacher. I'm Miss Denisha. So on this side of the classroom was the windows. All the windows on this side. The door was over here, and there was a wall here, the classroom, right? There was all books underneath the window on this side. So we used to torment this fucking lady. Kids sitting in the front when she'd be up on the board, typing, do whatever, fucking hitting with the magic erase marker and the chalk, whatever. I don't know if she had a marker board or she probably had a chalk at that point. Kids would grab an encyclopedia or a textbook and pass it to the kid behind them. And this went on, and they would go all the way to the last kid in the end. He'd fucking toss the book out the window. Back up, toss out the window. And this went on for like 10, 15 minutes. You get a knock. She goes, answer the door. It'd be one of the kids downstairs holding a fucking stack like this. He'd go, yeah, all of your students threw all these books out the fucking window. Bro, she lost her shit. Slam her fucking, bro. We tormented this lady. I'm talking Dangerous Minds. The Coolio shit, throwing the fucking papers in the back of her head. We fucked this lady up, dude. I felt terrible, but we were just little mischievous jerk-offs. But I got crafty. I was built different. Remember Home Alone 2? The Talk Boy. I still have mine to this day in the box, sitting in my toy room. I'll throw a picture up there of my actual one. Home Alone was my favorite. Seeing this kid do the mischievous things that he did, it just watching it and living vicariously through Macaulay Culkin, or Kevin McAllister rather, it hit different for me. And I loved just watching that, because I was an only child, so I like I said, I had an imagination. Now, I'm not proud of this. This is a fucked up story. Talk Boy. Home Alone 2 Talk Boy. I had it, and I used to make all these different sound and little scenarios and basically like little audio scenes, right? This involves Home Alone 2 Talk Boy and Streets of Rage 2. Now, you're probably hearing this right now and going, how do those two things even remotely go hand in hand? Well, a fucked up little Al in 5th grade will make magic out of these two things. Well, you might not think they're magic. You think I'm a little fucking jerk off, but this is what happened. I watched Andrew Dice Clay as a young kid when I shouldn't have, and it altered my mind. Permanently ruined me. The words he would use to describe sexual things, the synonyms and the similes he would spit out were otherworldly to me. They were just so creative and crafty, and I really enjoyed them. So I got a dirty mind at a young age. Streets of Rage 2, arguably the greatest beat 'em up of all time. Hands down, ever, for the Sega Genesis. Now, I had every system. I had the Nintendo. I had all that. Streets of Rage 2 and Genesis was my favorite system of all time at the time. Booger Man, Vector Man, the whole nine. But Streets of Rage 2 was special. I don't know why, but I was a curious kid, and I went in basically the select menu, the settings. And there's a way you can play a soundboard, basically, which, you know, what we used to download years later, a soundboard, and you can play all the sound effects of all the characters in the game. Meaning, you could take the woman character and play her getting hit and her reaction, like, like when she dies, and like when the guy's like punching and shit. Worst thing you could have ever shown a kid with a perverted mind like mine. So what did I do? I was into wrestling at the time, and I thought it was fucking funny. Let me make an audio sex tape. Because remember, audio comedy CDs were a thing. And you would think, how can you listen to an audio comedy CD? Well, you got Adam Sandler's What the Hell Happened to Me, which is arguably one of the greatest comedy albums of all time. And it's all full of skits. And skits are what? Movies for the blind. It's what they are. So you could sit there and listen and envision and imagine what's going on. So I decided, let me do a fucking sex tape, but let me use Streets of Rage 2 sounds to mimic the guy and the girl. But let me do it in Macho Man Randy Savage's voice because I love WWF. Wasn't WWE at the time. Now, what's that? What is a 5th grader doing something fucked up like that? But I did it. You know, like, oh yeah, I'm gonna fuck you till I come. Like I'm sitting there with my talk boy to my mother's fucking. Now you got to remember, I had every system at the time, but we lived in a small apartment and all the systems were hooked up in my mother's bedroom. So my mother's bedroom, her bed would go right here. There'd be space for my fucking feet, and the TV was right there. So dude, you're talking about a foot difference. And that's just where my stuff was. Like, when my mom would lay down on her bed, she could obviously watch TV kind of comfortably, big tube, like 32 inches. But if I wanted to play games, I'm at the edge of the TV and I'm sitting there like this, like dumb close. And I'm sitting there with my talk boy holding the mouthpiece to the speaker. And I'm hitting A and I'm fucking giggling, oh yeah, and then hitting record, doing the most, oh my God, suck it, you know, like going fucked up. So what do? I bring this fucking little fucking 2-minute tape that I made in 5th grade. Sickening. I'm not proud, but it happened. True story. And I bring it to school and I go in the bathroom and I play it for my friends and we're wailing. Of course, we're dying laughing. Somebody opens their fucking mouth because I went to school with a bunch of fucking bitches. This wasn't like in the hood where cats had a code of the streets. You know what I mean? These cats were fucking pussy. So what'd they do? Somebody told my teacher at the time, I'm not going to say her name. She was a little weird. I'm not going to say her name. They told her that I had this tape. So I'm in the bathroom showing my friends this tape and they're dying. They're dying laughing. We come out of the bathroom. Who's there? Her. What are you doing, Albert? Oh, nothing, you know. What is that in your hand? She goes, give me that. Hit play. So you got to remember, there must be 4 of us. If any of you watching that I went to middle school with remembers this moment, I have a feeling Mike Gallifrey was there. I don't know if he was, but I have a feeling. Maybe Mike Cristiano was there too. If you remember this moment, this was the first moment in my life where I've never felt so goddamn fucking embarrassed in my life. I had to hit play, dude. I'm sitting there. I hit play. Bro, I don't even know, like, when you talk about putting your tail between your legs, bro. Oh, yeah, I'm going to come and you, bro. Her fucking head looked like it was going to explode, but her eyes went up like this. She hit stop. She goes, I'm confiscating this and you got to see me after class. Bro. After that, here's what's the story gets weirder. I have to go through the rest of the class. My friends are laughing. I think it's fucking funny. Of course, I always took the hit. I was like the punching bag. I was the only motherfucker with balls while everybody sat there and did nothing. I go see her after class. How would your mother and father feel if I showed them this? I'm sitting there, my fucking head in my lap. They wouldn't like it. They wouldn't like it, Miss whatever her name was. I'm gonna confiscate this. And you better not do anything ever again. And that was it. She didn't tell my mom. She didn't tell my dad. Nothing. So after that, of course, I had an on-running joke because this lady, this teacher, was very weird. She'd come up behind you, rub your back real nice. I remember she would do this kid, Richie Conjero. She would bother me too, but Richie too. For some reason, I remember Richie a lot. She'd go, how you doing, Richie? Doing real good in class? Rub the back of his fucking head. Like, I was always convinced. I used to tell my friends, this lady would go home and flick her bean to the fucking thought of us. For sure. She would ring that Liberty Bell, if you know what I'm saying. And it was an on-running joke with me and my friends. Like, yo, she would definitely take that tape home, play it, and go bananas with herself. It's a little fucked up to say that, but it was a weird thought that she would fucking sit there and confiscate that, not say anything and just keep it. Maybe she was just trying to keep me out of trouble because she liked me, but I thank you, Mrs. whatever your name is that I'm not going to say. Thank you so much because you let a 5th grade perverted kid go off on his own and become a worse kid later on. No, I'm just kidding. But anyway, so back to the pen thing after that crazy talk boy story. Like I said, the one thing you can guarantee on this show is I'm going to give you the real. I'm going to give you embarrassing moments. I'm going to give you proud moments. And a lot of the things in this were when I was a mischievous kid. And, I'm not proud of a lot of this shit, but it happened. I thought it was pretty funny. Anyway, back to the pen thing. The one thing that I remember was the introduction of mechanical pencils. I mean, this was revolutionary. And, I went on a tangent collecting which ones that I liked the most, how many millimeters, which thickness that I liked, which brands, the houses, and all that stuff. One thing that I remember that kids used to do all the time with mechanical pencils was like I said, again, mischievous, terrible kids, was do the whole shooting the heroin thing with the mechanical pencils. Do you remember that? Take a mechanical pencil, sit there and press on the eraser, because what it would do is it would eject, it would eject the lead in the pencil, the little strip that you would have. And then if you pressed on it and then went like this, it would look like that the lead is disappearing into your vein, even though all it's doing is going back in the chamber. But when we were kids, we used to always sit there and eject all the lead in the pencil and then pretend like you were shooting up fucking heroin. And I know that some of you are going to see this and think that is like one of the most nostalgic things, because we all fucking did. We would sit there and some kids would just constantly break pieces of the lead off and stuff like that. But that was one of the things that I really remember, is when it looks like you're injecting a needle into somebody's vein, but it was really just like, a fun thing with the pencil. But one thing that I also did, this is a rather obscure thing that we did with mechanical pencils. And I wonder if other schools, which I'm sure they did it, were mechanical pencil guns. Do you guys remember mechanical pencil guns? And here's the crazy part. A lot of you probably might remember this, but think it's a figment of your imagination and you don't remember what it was. I was digging through my stash, and this is what's crazy about me, is I'm such an archivist that I really remember and keep everything from my childhood. And I was going through my stuff. Obviously, I used to keep cigar boxes because my dad would give me cigar boxes, and I would keep a lot of my fun things in it, like magician tricks, cotton flash paper, because I was really into that stuff at the time. My dad had a friend, Umago de Avellino, this Rocco the magician, the inventor of that thumb light, and he had a lot of cotton and flash paper that he would give me with the thing that you could ignite it with, which is basically like a lighter flint. Anyway, I was going through my stuff and I found a box that had these mechanical pencil guns in it. So I'll try to explain exactly what it was, but picture a mechanical pencil. You got the main body of the pencil that would house the whole mechanism, right? And it would have a clip on it that you could put on your pocket or whatever. And then it would have the tip that you would press down, which was basically the eraser, right? And then the bottom, there'd be like the angled piece that would eject, that would have the tip that would come out of it. So you would basically unscrew that, throw that piece away, which would leave what? It would leave that cylinder column thing on the inside, and the eraser tip that you would press down with that thing and with the spring or whatever. We would sit there and tie rubber bands around the base of the shaft, stretch them out over the eraser column or whatever, and you'd basically pull them back, and you would put paper or whatever on the tip or the opening of the base of the shaft, and then you would sit there and the rubber band would cause it to come and hit the back of the shaft. It would act like a gun, and you could shoot pieces of paper at people. So we used to get so crafty with them, where we'd make the mechanical pencil gun. We'd sometimes wrap paper around the shaft, fucking color them like in camouflage, right? And then we would take a Bic pen, let's say, right? Take all the innards out of the Bic pen, so it'd be just that, like one of them classic Bics that was like a white shaft, and then we'd cut with a knife like on an angle, so it would be a little scope. We'd take the scope and hot glue it on top of the clip that would go on your pocket when you put like pens in your pocket protector. And then we'd glue it on there so it would act like a fucking scope, because we thought we were fucking cool. But this is like the shit that, like, as a kid, this isn't an iPad era. This is like when we were outside, we had to be crafty. We had video games, but we weren't stuck inside as much as the kids were nowadays. So we would do all these weird little things to pass time, especially in class. If you were bored, I fucking hated school. So I would sit there and just make all this weird stuff. But do any of you remember this stuff that I'm talking about, mechanical pencil guns? And were other schools in other states doing that same shit? And I have a strong feeling you guys were, but it was just cool to like go through my stash and find, and I'll throw pictures up on the YouTube video. It was so crazy to go through my stash and find these guns. I couldn't believe, like, obviously a lot of the rubber bands are dry rotted and they no longer, have the elasticity. They're very brittle or hard or whatever the case may be. But it was just so cool to like sit here and see that I still had these mechanical pencil guns. Another thing that we would do is the mechanical pencil guns. What was weird about the shaft was, do you guys remember Light Bright? I know you probably do. So those are those little plastic pieces that you would put on this little board, and then you turn it on, it would light up and whatever. You can make these like all different designs and whatever it was. But those little pieces you could grab and put on the end of these fucking things and shoot them out of the mechanical pencil guns. You would put them right in the shaft. They fit perfectly in that cylindrical fucking shaft of these mechanical pencil guns, and we would shoot. And what's even crazier is when I was looking through my stash and I found a little box that had these mechanical pencil guns in it, I found a little tin, a little cigarello tin. You opened it and it was filled with all the colors of the Light Bright things. We used to have them. I saved everything. I even saved the ammo, which is fucking absolutely fucking bonkers. And among other things that we were doing in class, like doing those stupid things, making little crafty things, were one thing that I know you guys will remember, especially the females: fortune teller paper origami. I mean, for the younger generation, you might not know what that is. If you're like in your 20s right now, it was this origami that you would fold, and it would look like this 4-quadrant fortune cookie almost. You'd fit your 4 fingers in it, and you'd open it. You could decorate it whatever you want, and you could put fortunes or notes on the inside of it, so that when you'd open it, when the person would select a number, let's say you give them pick a number from 1 to 5 or whatever. So let's say they pick 5. You go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, whatever it was, and then stop at whatever their number. Then you pull up their fortune. It was like a little fun thing, but kids would do notes, dirty notes, whatever it was, and stuff like that. But It was crazy to remember because we used to do that shit every fucking day. Especially the females would always do the fortune teller paper origami. And they would always ask you, pick a number, pick a color. And then that's how they would decipher and pick the different things so they could unveil the fortune or the note that they would leave. Speaking of writing things on paper, passing notes. This is like, I wonder if kids do this stuff nowadays. I'm sure they do because there's obviously always paper in classrooms, but passing notes. Who remembers passing notes, especially when you wanted to ask somebody out? When I think about school, that stuff gives me goosebumps. Not that I like want to be doing that shit today, but it's just like, it's nostalgic, man. This is ultra nostalgia. This is like the whole purpose of this episode is to sit here and just remember and think like, wow, like the shit we did with kids, you forget, man. The further you go on in life, the busier you get, the more women you date, the marriages you have, the more kids you make, the careers you attack, you forget this stuff. So that's like why I'm doing this. So I want you all to think with a clogged nose, and I'm still a little fucking sick, but it's just passing notes. I want to remember this stuff. And I'll never forget, like, you'd say, will you go out with me? And you'd put like, yes, no, circle one and just pass. I know you guys remember that shit. That stuff was like, it was just so funny to just sit here, like when I was thinking about doing this episode and just pondering that stuff. It was absolutely hilarious. Speaking of paper items in school, who remembers paper poppers? I fucking loved making paper poppers, especially in middle school. Now, if you've never seen this, I'll load a picture up of what it is. You would basically fold the paper in a certain way, and then you would sit there and hold it at the end of it, and you would push a certain amount of paper out where it would kind of form this little like umbrella-esque little shape there. Then you hold it by the bottom end, and you go, and you would sit there and throw it down as hard as you can. What it would do is it would create a whiplash effect, whip the paper out and swack. It would be super loud, like a smack. Bro, we used to do that shit so much in school. You would do it and it would bust the end of the paper open. I loved making paper poppers. Who out there remembers what it was like to sit there and handcraft a paper popper in the middle of school and scare the living fucking shit out of somebody? You used to go up behind somebody, real nonchalant, whack, just smack, and just fuck. I can't even do the noise. That fucking loud ass fucking shit it was unbelievable. I loved making those little things. Do kids make that shit nowadays? I gotta ask my son. I try to talk to him as much as possible, but it's like when I think of being a kid and I think of the shit we used to do when we were kids, I wonder how much, because they're so consumed by social media and technology that who knows if this stuff is even around anymore. But that's the purpose of this, is to get you to remember and keep it alive, if you will. Another game we used to play when we were kids was pencil breakers. You remember pencil breaker fights? You would take a fresh, my favorite word, a Dixon Ticonderoga #2 pencils. Those things were fresh. You would get them when you would take a multiple choice test with the Scantron. There was no better pencil on the market than a #2 Dixon Ticonderoga. Beautiful yellow paint, that nice metallic green. Oh, chef's kiss was the Dixon Ticonderoga. But we used to do what was called pencil breaker fights. Do you remember that? You would basically, one person would take a pencil. It would always have to figure out a way to know who's going first. So you maybe do rock, paper, scissors, shoot, or you would pick, you would fucking flick a coin, call heads or tails, whatever it was. You'd figure out a way to figure out who goes first. So let's say I went first. The other person would take the pencil, they'd hold it in their hand like this, and they'd hold it. And your objective was to take your pencil, you're going to try to get that metal tip by the eraser, and you sweat. You try to crack their pencil in half. And if you hold it and you didn't crack it, then it was their turn. And whoever, it's kind of like fucking Dana White's power slap, but with pencils. Whoever gives up first, in this case, it would be whoever's pencil would break first would be the winner. We used to always have pencil breaker fights. Do you remember that shit? Do you remember pencil breaker fights? Please comment below, message me, DM me. I'm bringing up so much stuff here tonight. I want to know if you all remember this stuff. So please always comment below reach out to me. I want to have these conversations with you all. Another thing that we used to do that was absolute sinister and crazy. And to think if my son would ever do that shit now, I'm like, we were absolute morons. We're bloody knuckles. Do you remember the game Bloody Knuckles? I know you guys got to remember. Now, there was different iterations of this game, but the one we used to play when we were kids involved quarters. So what you would do is you would take a quarter. You and your partner would figure out, okay, whoever you were versing, who's going to go first? Like I said, same thing as before. Rock, paper, scissors, or you would fucking flick a coin and see who could stop it. Whatever the case may be, you would figure out a way who's going to go first, right? Now, let's say I'm going to go first. So my opponent, what would he do? He'd put his arm up like this on the fucking cafeteria table, because most of this stuff went down in the lunchroom cafeteria. You put your arm here against your body and on the cafeteria table. Then you take your fist, knuckles down in front of your arm. This way, if the quarter would go anywhere besides your hand, it won't get lost and fling away. But you have to keep your knuckles buried down into the cafeteria table. And I'm going to sit here and I'm going to grab that. I'm going to grab my thumb, put the quarter under my thumb on the table and whack, thoo. And what the objective is, you take the quarter and you're trying to fucking create them bloody knuckles so they can give up. And the sound, I'll never forget the sound, the thud of when a fucking quarter would hit somebody's knuckle. Oh, it was brutal. I was really good at that game. And the only reason I would play, because I knew if I was going to get to hit you first, the chances were you were going to give up. So most of the time I didn't really have bloody knuckles because I had great accuracy. But let me tell you something, man. Some of these kids would put that shit down. And here's the funny part. If you were to lift your knuckle up a little bit and the quarter would slide underneath and get lodged, that's a redo. So then you're already sweating bullets like, fuck, this shit is going to fuck me up and it's going to fucking hurt. And you sit there and you lift your shit up by accident out of fear. Now it's a redo. Now I'm going to get another fucking shot. And then I'm going to fucking hit you hard. And dude, the worst was when you'd hear the thud and just see the blood splatter on the fucking counter. Right on, bro. Kids were going back to class after lunch with the shit peeled back like somebody's fucking forehead at a fucking Spanish barbaria. You know what I'm saying? Boom! Fucked up. Chipping, bro, kids would be fucked up. Bloody Knuckles was one of the worst games you could ever play, but we all played it, and I'll never forget that fucking sound. I know anybody that played Bloody Knuckles, I know you remember that painful, terrible fucking sound of that quarter slamming against somebody's knuckle, just busting the fucking skid open. We had fucking problems. I wonder if kids even play that shit nowadays. This is absolutely horrendous type of behavior. Another thing that we used to play at the cafeteria. So the cafeteria, we did a lot of shit. You'd eat your shit quick, then you'd have something to do. Bloody Knuckles was one of them. Another one was paper football. Oh, this was one of the best. It was harmless. You had a good time. You had the field goal. You sit there, you perched it up. You hit underneath. Oh, you get hit in the eye. That was like the worst thing that fucking happened to you. What's crazy about paper football is there's a company called Klutz. Who remembers Klutz? Now, Klutz, you used to get at one store that I'm going to bring up soon called Zany Brainy. Who remembers Zany Brainy? There was one here in the Wayne Hills part of the Willowbrook Mall. And I look every year for pictures of Zany Brainy. Not any location for that particular one, because you've all seen the diorama that I had made of the Fun and Games entrance, right? I want to do one of Zany Brainy, but not just any one, dude. I need the one there that was at the Wayne Hills Mall. Zany Brainy was heaven. If you remember Zany Brainy, it was every kid's dream. You went to Zany Brainy, they had everything. It was like a learning center, and they had toys, they had books, and they just had every little cool knick-knack and little treasure, little gemstone that us kids loved. And one of the things they had there were these Klutz products. So Klutz is a very special company. I'm not going to dive too much into Klutz, but they would have like educational books with a toy or with something that would go along with it. And there's a Klutz paper football book out there. And it was basically the same shape as the paper football we would make, which was basically like a triangle, but it was made out of like a leather and it was like sewn and like, bound together. So, and it taught you how to play paper football with this not paper, little leather knickknack here. And that was like, Klutz was the shit. But there was another thing that Klutz had that I loved, and I got it at Zany Brainy. So, like I said, Zany Brainy was like an educational store, but it had a lot of toys. So it had a lot of puzzles, really cool little knickknacks for kids. Hammett's Learning Center was really cool too in Verona, but this was beyond that. This was more like toys, right? Zany Brainy had something called a Klutz Foxtail. It came with a book too. So let me put in perspective what a foxtail was. If you remember what a foxtail was. It was basically like a miniature baseball. It wasn't super hard like a baseball, though. It was leather, made of the same type of shit like a baseball was, but it was a little squishier. And let's say halfway or 70% the way down of the ball, there was this nylon parachute material, multicolored, like patchwork, adhered to the end of the ball and sewn in, and it would create this tail at the end down to a point, which is essentially the foxtail. But this thing was amazing. So it was a game, and the book that came with the Klutz Foxtail would basically teach you how to play foxtail. Now, the goal of foxtail was not just to catch the ball. It's basically like you're playing catch. So you would throw this ball, and the foxtail would create and have it like soar through the sky like you've never seen before. But the objective wasn't to catch it at the ball itself, but it was to catch it at the tail. And the closer you got up the tail towards the ball, you'd get more points. And it was a fantastic game. And I wonder if foxtail is still around today. Not only that, but is Klutz still around? And if you are, sponsor me, Klutz. Klutz is the most nostalgic brand in America to this day. I mean, let's be real here. It was fucking incredible. And when I had that foxtail, when I had that Klutz paper football, fucking this stuff, man, you can't capture these feelings and these memories in a bottle. You can't do it. They're just, I love reliving these moments. I love cherishing the childhood that I had and the little idiosyncrasies that I remember growing up of the stuff that I loved. And like I said, there's much, much more than what I'm going to say here tonight. But I just wanted to give you a taste. And if the reception is big, I'm going to keep doing this. But I got to tell you, I had a lot of fun thinking back and just remembering all this shit that I remember from when I was a kid. And I could have done way more, but I had to cap it, at some point. Another thing that I loved was the Vortex. Who remembers the Vortex football? This thing revolutionized playing catch, especially the Whistler. Oh, dude, I had a fucking Vortex. I can't even describe what material the football was made out of. What was this shit? It was like a rubber, but it was a plastic, but it was a foam. It was like rubber, plastic, and foam had an orgy and just gave birth to this wonderful material with a foam tail, and it threw a perfect spiral every time. You could do sidearm, overhand, and you knew it was going to... Oh, the whistle. You'd throw it high. I couldn't wait. I'd be down my block. I'd have my buddy meet me. All the way up. Boom, catch. What's fucking better than that? The Vortex was revolutionary. I want one today. I'm going to fucking buy one. You better give me a fucking Vortex. Better give me one. I got another thing for you guys. I'm going to fuck your head up right now. Oh, my nose is so clogged. Jesus Christ. I'm going to fuck your head up right now. Who remembers toilet paper bombs? Now, me saying that, you might not get it. So I'm going to describe it for you. when we were kids and we went in the bathroom, especially in my middle school. So our bathroom was on the second, the bathroom we used in 5th grade was on the 2nd floor. Okay. You'd grab a big wrap, a bunch of toilet paper in your hand, and you'd put it under the faucet, get it real wet. And kids used to take it, throw it on the ceiling. Not only would it stay up there if you threw it hard enough, it would harden and just live up there forever unless somebody would take a fucking broomstick and knock it down. So, of course, we're jerk-offs when we're kids in middle school. We would take it a step further. So our bathroom was on a 2nd floor. And it was basically close to the corner where the other building would intersect, the other annex, if you will. So it'd be like this, right? There's a window. So when you go in the bathroom, you open the window, you could see the other annex on this side. So if we're in this bathroom, this is the window. There's an annex over here. You could see it. There was a gutter, obviously, that would be there to drain water. You're kids. You don't care that it's a gutter, nor, you know what I mean? You don't even realize what it is, nor do you care. So we would sit there and try to make bets on who could make, like shooting hoops in the fucking gutter. So we would make toilet paper bombs. Not only would we throw them in the ceiling to make ceiling ornaments, we would take these toilet paper bombs and try to shoot them in the fucking gutter across the way into the other annex gutter. Now, of course, what happens if we do that? If it hardens up there, it's going to harden in the gutter. Then it's going to clog the fuck out of it. I wonder how many times they had to take apart that gutter and just get all this toilet paper from when we used to destroy it. I can't even imagine, but who out there remembers toilet? Listen, you guys, I want you to blow up the comments tonight because I want to know who can relate to all this shit that I'm saying. That's the whole purpose of this, is I want to know who out there knows what I'm saying. Toilet paper bombs was some other shit. Another thing that we had when we were kids, which was really sinister, were paper wasps. Remember paper wasps? So if you don't remember what they are, you would take a piece of paper, you would fold it beyond belief until it formed like a L or whatever. Like you would bend it and make it so it was like this thick, kind of like a boomerang shape, and you would just fold it and fold it and fold it until it was like super thick, and then you would just fold the piece over so it could wrap like this. Then you would take a rubber band and you'd put the rubber band like this, and you would pull the paper wasp back, kind of like a slingshot. And these fucking things would hurt so bad. Who out there remembers getting hit by a paper wasp? These things would fuck you up like a paintball gun bruise. Like I'm talking, you pull that shit back, whack! Bro, some kids would be even worse. Remember those paper, they were like, I don't know what they were called. They were kind of like paper clips, but they were kind of like, they were kind of like, you could put paper in between them, and they were kind of like webbed and folded this way. Yo, cats were using them shits, bro. Those paper wasps would hurt so fucking bad. Cats would wait until a teacher was writing on the board and then wait to see the back of your neck, and then whoosh, bro, you get hit with that fucking, but you'd have a bruise on your neck, a fucking knot for fucking weeks. The paper wasps were the absolute fucking worst. I know y'all remember paper wasps. But even then, even thinking about sitting in class, passing time, doing the paper wasp dance, doing the whole thing, Jinkos were huge, right? Not only Jinkos, who remembers soaps? Bro, every kid and their mother had a pair of soaps. If you don't know what soaps are basically a pair of sneakers, but the middle of the sneaker, the sole, rather, like right in the center would be like a little grind plate. So you could essentially run and then grind like rails, stairs, whatever it was that you were doing, waxing it up, the whole thing. So it was to emulate rollerblading and skateboarding without the wheels, and you would just walk and do it. In that same time frame, there was something called Jinkos that were really popular. What's funny is that they're bringing Jinkos back. And I saw a kid on my train, actually, because I'm in public transportation. I'm a train conductor. I saw a kid wearing a pair of Jinkos, and I was fucking blown away. Now, I didn't like Jinkos. I didn't like the shape of them. They were huge. And what was funny about Jinkos is that when people wore them, it looked like they were kind of levitating. It was a really bizarre, strange thing, because they were so big that they would cover the whole sole of your feet. You wouldn't even see your sneakers, and that's how the bottoms would get frayed and stuff. But I loved the artwork on Jenkos. They would basically embroider on, I think it would be the left leg on the pocket, whatever. It'd be like a J with a crown or whatever, but it was kind of like graffiti inspired and stuff. So a lot of people remember Jenkos. That was huge. But there was one thing that I'm curious that I don't think a lot of people remember were UFO pants. Who remembers UFO pants? So picture Jenkos, but with parachute material. So these are like nylon big space pants. They were so cool. And what was cool about them is they got really smart. Now, I'm a bowler, right? And one of my favorite bowling companies is Storm. Every single Storm ball has a scent to it, and it lasts pretty long. Is it important that it has a scent? No, it's more for novelty, right? But these UFO pants, they made them eventually smell. And my buddy Ronnie Castle, shout out to my boy Ronnie, who owns a brewery called Autodidact, which I actually need to get him in here to interview him to talk about it. He used to wear UFO pants all the time. A lot of ravers used to wear them because they had a lot of straps on them and shit. You could like tie them by the ankle and get them tight and all that. But they had ones that smelt. And he had a pair that smelled like mint. There was like a teal, I forget what color it was, but I remember sitting in class, like trying to do work, and I'm just smelling the fragrance off of his fucking UFO pants. And I was just like, yo, that's wild that they made a pair of pants that smells. And then obviously years later, I would find a bowling company that SPI that would put out shit that smells too. Anyway, I just thought I had to bring up UFOs because UFOs were fucking absolutely wild. But at the time when we were wearing UFOs and Jenkos and skateboard and getting rebellious and shit, we were all smoking cigarettes. Now, I started smoking cigarettes at a young age. I don't smoke them now. Sounds like I do today because my fucking voice is shot. But I had my first cigarette when I was 13 years old. I'm not proud of it. But it was one of those things where like my parents smoked. And, you know, I don't want to put the blame on them, but I'm like, you can't tell me what to do if you do it, you know? So that's why like I don't smoke cigarettes now. At least if I ever catch my son doing it when he's older, I could be like, I don't know where the fuck, you know, I could enforce a little more righteously because I don't actually do it. But I used to smoke cigarettes. I started when I was 13, Newport's only baby till I died when I did smoke. And we used to smoke a lot. We used to buy Stokes from this one particular place. I'm not going to mention because I might have him on a podcast and I don't want to get him lit up, you know, without his permission. So I'm not going to bring it up. But we used to sit by F and Brown, light it up in the woods. There was like a big ass rock that we used to kick it back there. Middle school, we used to hang out by the pit, HB Whitehorn, a lot of fights would go down there. Bikers would do the dirt jump. Shout out to my boy CJ with the Chris Benoit. I think he had a Benoit. He did a fucking Trey 60 off the dirt jump. We used to smoke cigarettes back there. But that transition, obviously, we went to high school, we would smoke in the bathroom. And, you know, we used to do what was called a dragon puff or a dragon pull. When you're smoking in the bathroom, you don't got much time. You can't, it's not like when you ask somebody to go to the bathroom, your teacher, you can't go in the bathroom for 40 minutes because, you know, they're going to come looking for you. So you would have to smoke your cigarette fast. And we would do something called dragon pull, which is basically you try to take the biggest pull you can, and you would just watch that motherfucker diminish. I had a good suck. Pause. I used to watch that shit diminish in like 4 puffs. And, you know, you would smoke. But the thing is like, you wanted to minimize the amount of smoke that would rise, right? So when you're sitting there, the one thing I remember was we used to do the wave technique. Remember the wave technique? You would take a puff, you would blow down because you don't want it to travel up as high, and you would blow it underneath the stall next to you so that if a teacher did come in, they wouldn't see it rising from your stall. You would see it rising from theirs, but you would sit there and wave the joint. The more you waved it, the slower the smoke would climb. So that's what we used to... You remember doing a dragon puff and a wave? Dragon puff and a wave. I mean, that was the shit we did when we were kids, bro. I mean, it's sickening to think about it, but that's exactly what we did. Another thing that I associate greatly with my childhood, unfortunately, is the term pyromaniac. Now, you all know what that means. And we were kids, we learned that word, and that was everything to us. Well, us mischievous, bad kids, because we were. And we would light everything on fire. One thing that I used to do and that I used to love was, who remembers the black snake fireworks? It basically looked like a little miniature hockey puck, like made out of coal, what it looked like. And you would light it with the lighter, and it would just create this snake would form out of it and just slither all over the place. And it was basically like an ash snake. And it was the coolest shit ever. I don't even know what it was made out of, but it was one of the cool things ever. So that was things that we used to like. Another thing that we used to love. But we got crafty because when we were growing up, there was something called the Anarchist Cookbook. If you don't know what that is, it was a book written by a guy named William Powell in 1971. And this thing was like the worst thing that could have hit America or anywhere as a whole. It was basically a book that would teach you how to manufacture weapons yourself, create explosives, chemically make LSD. I mean, this was like, and freaking devices, which was basically phone hacking, like things that you could hook up to a payphone that could simulate the sound of a quarter dropping so you can get free calls. Like, this thing was like the worst shit you could ever have. And it came out, it was a real book, banned in a lot of places. But we discovered it, and we used to have the digital form of it on the internet when we were kids, back in our hacking days. I used to download it like off the MIRC and all that. And we used to make all this fucked up shit. And there was one thing that I used to make called CO2 cartridge bombs. And it wasn't something that I read in there, but it just kind of made all the sense to me. So paintball was getting popular when I was a kid. And a couple of kids had Tipman 98 Classics. My one friend growing up in high school had an Angel LCD. He was a rich kid. He was the only kid, Rich Conjero. He had bread. His parents had money. They were both, I believe his mother owned her own salon. She had money, and he wasn't a brat, but he had everything that he wanted. And Rich had an Angel LCD. This was a paintball gun. At the time, it was the most revolutionary paintball gun I've ever seen. It had a little fucking, you'd flip the panel down on the side, and it had a fucking digital readers. You could like load modes into it and program things. So you could do like, let's say like a 10-shot burst where you pull the trigger once and it shoots 10 balls out and then stops. So each time you pull the trigger, you could do these different bursts, fully automatic, change the velocity. I mean, this Angel LCD gun was crazy. But we all had these little guns, and you either had a big ass tank on your back or you use these little CO2 cartridges, these little things that people would do whippets with. But you could take them, put them in the cracker, put them in the gun, and you get whatever the case of a shot was. So I had a couple of copperhead ones left over. And one day I decided, let me take 3 of them. So it would form like a little rack like this. And I'd tape it. And we used to set fires all the time. We thought we were pyromaniacs. We loved setting fire to shit. So I had this idea one day. We're in the back of FM Brown. We go to the back of the school to a corner of the brick wall, because most schools are made out of brick. Put a pile of leaves in the corner, light the pile of leaves, and then take 3 or 4 of these CO2 cartridges, leftover ones that I had because I wasn't shooting anymore, taped them up, set them in the fire, and we'd run back. And this shit would take a while. It would take a while for the fire to penetrate the opening of the CO2 cartridge. But when it did, boom, it would make the loudest explosion. And the fact that we did it in the corner of this building, it would echo even further. We used to do the craziest shit. But we found that Anarchist Cookbook, and that's where you could find how to make tennis ball bombs. You cut a hole in a tennis ball and throw a bunch of match heads in it, pipe bombs, like all sorts of shit that, you know, you could make that we were doing. The Anarchist Cookbook was every parent's worst enemy, because kids like us got a hold of it and it fucking ruined us forever. Another thing that was so fun about growing up was buying little, you know, explosive things here and there. Remember cap guns and shit? You put the cap gun, a little loud, the little poppers you would throw on the ground. There were little tissue paper filled with a bunch of whatever the fuck was filled in them, and you could just throw them at people, the poppers. Who remembers bomb bags? Do you remember bomb bags? Bomb bags were so much fun and they were so satisfying. So what a bomb bag was, if you don't know what it is, it's kind of similar. It's a little like one of these little explosive doodads that little kids would buy in little dollar stores and shit, 5 and dimes. So a bomb bag was like this like foil bag, right? Whatever powder it had on the inside, there was also a little bag with liquid in it in the middle. So like there'd be a big bag, and then on the inside, you can't see the contents, but the contents would be some sort of powder that would react to the little bag on the inside that had this liquid, and you'd squeeze it until the bag would pop. Once it popped and that stuff chemically reacted to whatever was sitting on the inside of that actual bag, it would inflate, and then you'd throw it. And then you'd wait a little bit, and then it would go pop, and then all this liquid would come out of you, whatever. Those were so much fun, but they were satisfying because you were squeezing something and you would watch it implode, right? They got crafty after the regular bomb bags, and they made fart bags. So this is when the stink bombs come into play. The liquid this time would have a stench, kind of like your sulfur bombs with the glass bomb. You know, there was these little glass vials that you would throw on the ground. They would break and would have this nasty, like rotten egg smell. It was disgusting. It was like this yellow oil liquid. So this was kind of similar to the fart bags. It was a bomb bag, but when you squeeze in, it would pop. It would emit this nasty, gross smell. But I just remember love being a kid, going to a store and copping fart bags, bomb bags, cap guns, you know, little poppers. I actually have my wife. Black Cat was one of my favorite companies. They made firecrackers. My wife, remember that company TNT? My wife actually has a box in the house of the little poppers. I can't believe it. But it's like back in the day, you used to go into a convenience store, a 5 and dime, or a variety store, a stationery store, and you'd find this little shit. You'd find not only little toys like clackers and all that stuff, but you'd find really funny little explosive things that were like kind of harmless, but really fucked up, like fake poop or fake vomit that would be like a little rubber plastic that you would throw on the floor, or like you'd find all sorts of little doodads, fake noses with the, it was fun, man. I mean, those little novelty items that just made you smile, that sometimes you would find in a supermarket gap filler, like I was telling you before. But besides that, you'd find it in the, candy cigarettes, shit like that. Little things, they put these things by the cashier so that you'd bug your mom to buy it for you. But like a lot of these things are ingrained in my memory and stained like coffee. You know what I mean? It's like a coffee stain or a wine stain in a white shirt. It's like not leaving. You're not getting this shit out, without effort. It's like, I love this shit. And another significant part of growing up was the computer era. Computer's been around for a while, obviously, but I got my first computer when I was in 8th grade, and it fucking changed my life forever. I believe I had a compact Presario. That might have been my first one. After that, I had a Dell, I had a Hewlett Packard, but my first one ever was a compact Presario that was purchased at PC Richards. Or was it The Wiz? Remember The Wiz? Nobody beats The Wiz. It was at one of those because one of my dad's friends, Dominic, God rest his soul, he used to work at one of them. And he sold me my first computer. I'll never forget this shit. My mom got it for me in 8th grade. And having that computer just, wow. Like it changed. I can't describe what that feeling was like, man. When you got your first computer, and you cats that are my age know what this was like, man. That first computer you ever got. Some people had them earlier. They had older brothers and sisters, but me, I was an only child, and I got that shit in 8th grade. Wow. I couldn't believe that I had a fucking computer. The most important part of me getting my first computer was experiencing the internet for the first time. Now, obviously, when you have it in school, which we did in middle school, we were experiencing it. It was cool there, but you were restricted a lot, and nothing was like discovering what is now known as Web 1.0, which was the time frame from 1991 to 2004, the essential infancy stages of the internet. And when I discovered that, it opened my mind to so much, and just the overall aesthetics of Web 1.0. I mean, all those Angel Fire, GeoCities, like all these web hosts and that you could create your own website on. Essentially, people, this is before blog spots existed and stuff. You could create your own website on Angel Fire and stuff with like these. The craziest part was the aesthetics of the GIFs or the GIFs, if you will, whatever your proper pronunciation of that is the overall aesthetics of these websites. I used to get lost for hours scouring the internet, looking for video game codes. Dude, the amount of paper and ink that I wasted printing out like GoldenEye secrets, just reading stuff that like you didn't even know was real or not, but it's just like you got lost, dude. Like I can't describe it to somebody who, like my son, who was born with the internet and born with everything so easily accessible at the drop of a click, drop of a dime. Like literally, you can sit there and just download whatever you want, when you want, watch whatever movie streaming. Like this is at a point when streaming didn't exist, when all these things were like, this was so new, so refreshing. And like just being able to like look up whatever I want and finding these weird, unique websites in the deep internet of Web 1.0 and like seeing these weird, like you would have flame borders and blood drips and like these weird animated GIFs that these people would create their websites and these weird, creepy journal entries. Like if you go on YouTube and search like the deep web of like 1.0 and like see all these weird, bizarre websites. I mean, it's just another world. And one thing that I think of when I think of Web 1.0 and in the early internet days and me discovering this stuff is welcometohell.net. If you don't know what welcometohell.net is, it's one of the most incredible websites that changed my life forever, and it also changed my buddy Steve Zepp's life forever. And I'll explain what it is. Welcometohell.net was created by a kid named Matt Kent, who we all knew, heard rumors of when we were in high school and all this stuff. So I'll explain who Matt Kent is. Matt Kent is a kid that grew up in West Caldwell. He had a pen name that went by the name of Wheeler Antibanez. And when he was younger, he discovered Hilltop or the sanatoriums that we know. Part of it all the way up on the hill was in the Caldwells. The other majority of it was in Verona/Cedar Grove, and it was the sanatorium, basically tuberculosis wards. And they were abandoned for many years. They're not even there anymore. They don't even exist. But when we were growing up, we used to hang out in these things and just hear all these crazy rumors and explore. And there was even a haunted house that they would hold at one of the establishments on Fairview Avenue. But Matt Kent discovered this stuff at an early age growing up in West Caldwell. And, he became obsessed with the aesthetics and the overall look of the decrepit, decaying buildings and stuff. And he used to hang out there quite often. And, so much that he created the website, welcometohell.net. And I'll never forget, I don't even remember how I discovered this website. But when you go to the front page, and thankfully, due to the Wayback Machine and the Internet Archive, you could see a small glimpse into what this website was like. And it was basically, the front page said welcome to hell, and it was a nice, weird, gritty, bluish purple hue of the front of one of the main buildings with all the windows. And in this website, Matt Kent would have all these weird little hidden things and predominantly his journal entries. He's a very good writer who would later on go on to write many pieces for Weird New Jersey and things of that nature and write his own books. But this is where not only he would write his journal entries, but he would find Matt Kent would then form his pen name, or his alias, if you will, Wheeler Antibanez. And on this website, when we discovered it, because we were simultaneously going and visiting Hilltop Reservation and the sanatorium, which were all oddly connected underground via tunnels. And if you were daring enough, you would go in these tunnels. But I was too much of a pussy, so I would hang out more at the surface level buildings that were above ground. And they were fucking scary enough. I mean, you'd hear all these weird rumors and stuff of people doing sacrifices up there. A lot of crazy gothic people would hang out up there. Now, one time I was hanging out up there, and the Gothic era back then was it was kind of crazy, and it was different than what it is today. But these cats would wear these trench coats, face paint, kind of like real black metal-esque, and they would have those crazy full finger dragon armor rings and stuff like that. And I remember I was up there one day with one of my boys, because we used to hang out there often, smoke pot and chill and shit. I remember one day we were hanging out, and I looked down one of the paths, and I see this fucking really gothic person walking towards me with a trench coat blaring in the wind. And I could see the light glistening off of those full finger gothic, really crazy rings. And all of a sudden I turn back to my friends, and I tell them, like, yo, did you see that fucking guy? Some crazy motherfucker walking this way, bro. We better get out of here. And I look, and the person disappeared. And it was like, oh, we all got scared and we ran and stuff. Because it was all these weird things that we would come up in our heads, because we heard of all these stories of like sacrifices and like weird seances and going on in there. We didn't know what the fuck was going on. I mean, when you go in these buildings, I mean, they were fucking scary. Lots of weird satanic graffiti inside, all sorts of weird shit. And we would do all sorts of crazy things in these places besides like smoke pot, do shrooms inside these buildings. One of my friends, we used to go in there, we used to throw shit out the fucking second, third floor. Throw refrigerators, like all sorts of shit. Another fun fact is that my wife grew up predominantly, she had a bunch of towns that she grew up in, but she was mostly in Totowa for the most part. And she even knew about the sanatoriums and the hilltop reservations up there. And she went in there one day with her sister, and they found a book, because it was predominantly like a tuberculosis ward. And she found like an old book with like poems and stuff in it. And we were talking about it recently, and I'm going to try to dig it up, because hopefully if we do have it, which she thinks she does, maybe we could try to team up with Weird New Jersey and publish some of these poems in there, because there was a lot of weird stuff in there. Like my buddies would find like old ass toner cartridges, like from their printers and stuff, and spray it all over the walls. Dude, one time he went in there and he was spraying, my boy Justin Nielsen, he was spraying his fucking shit all inside the place. And when he came out the building, bro, he was spitting black for like 10 fucking hours, because he was inhaling all the toner that he was throwing everywhere. But there was so many weird stories and so many weird things going on in there. And this kid, Matt Kent, this was like his spot, and he loved it, and he gravitated towards it. And he used to write a lot of journal entries in it. What was crazy about the website is, me and my boy Steve Zepp talk about this website so much. It's like so important to us, the effect that it had on us. I mean, you could go on that website, and he would update it periodically, and it would change all the time. So you'd go up in there, and it would have the same facade, but you could maybe click on a window one day, and then a porn picture would pop up or something else. And like one of my friend's older sisters used to take naked pictures in one of those tuberculosis bathtubs in there with blood dripping on it. Like this was a place that like weird people went to like do photo shoots, and like I said, rumors of seances, all this weird stuff. And it just had this eerie mystique about it. And who knows what really went on there years ago. I mean, lower down towards Grove, like some of those buildings were still there. Now it's all apartments. But they would have like towards the end of its lifestyle, they would have like crazy homes in there, and like weird fucking crazy people. Kessler, I believe, had a piece of it. It was crazy. But this dude, Matt Kent, used to write on this website, welcometohell.net, and he would have all this crazy imagery and like stuff and annexes of the buildings and all these weird pictures of all the stuff that went on in there. And he would also have his journal entries in there, and he would type in all this stuff. But that's where he would coin the pen name Wheeler Antibanez. And this is where he would have his, his alias, if you will. And he ended up writing a piece on the Columbine shooting. And, unfortunately, in April 19th of the year 2000, which was about almost a year anniversary of the Columbine shootings. Whatever it was, I don't even remember his journal entry exactly, but it raised up red flags and it actually got him arrested. I mean, the charges were eventually dropped. And then after the charges got dropped, he ended up canning the website welcometehell.net, closed it down, took full on this Wheeler Antibanez pen name and ended up writing his own book, which would be a bunch of the journal entries from welcometehell.net. And it was called Gas Station Thoughts, which I actually have a copy of and I haven't fully read it yet. But besides that, I contacted Matt, also known as Wheeler Antibanez, and I want to get him on the show. And I want to talk about the impact that he had on me and my friends with welcometehell.net, because it was one of those things that you had to be there. You really had to be there to experience the mystique around this website. And it was almost like you were experiencing the sanatorium with him week by week, month by month. It was bizarre. It was truly a remarkable experience. When it finally shut down, it's like a piece of my heart left me. And, he's had many books since then. He's done, Nightshade in the Pacific. He's done a lot of stories with Weird New Jersey. He's got his own YouTube channel. He's wrote many pieces, but I want him in here to really talk about the early days of him growing up and the early start of welcometehell.net. So Matt, AKA Wheeler, I talked to you before. Please, you got to come on the show soon. You don't have to have a book coming out. I want to talk about welcometehell.net and how important it was to me and my boy. Please come on the show. Leaving high school, getting my license, the whole nine. One thing that I think is hilarious. I mean, I already told you that most kids don't even care about getting their license nowadays, right? They're so lucky now to have GPS systems. When I was a kid, we had no GPS. We had something called MapQuest. Do you guys remember MapQuest? I mean, you had to go online, type in your shit, you would get it, and then you'd print out the directions. But don't forget, those directions would get you to the place you'd have to get from also. So you'd have to then enter the address in reverse, print that out as well. And this is what we did. You're holding a fucking piece of paper up while you're trying to fucking navigate. It's insane. If God forbid you fucking miss an exit, then you got to improvise. Then you got to be, okay, I got to figure out how to get back on the highway. What was that exit I needed? Exit 59 off the Parkway. All right, I got to figure that out. I got to go on this exit, hopefully get back on the highway in the opposite direction to hop on the next. I mean, it was fucking insane. I mean, even before that, people had road maps. I mean, forget about that shit. I mean, we have it so easy now. Our kids, my son, is going to have it so easy. These fucking GPS systems, you go off the route. You could even type avoid traffic, avoid tolls. I mean, life now is so easy in comparison to yesteryear. It's absolutely unbelievable. But like I said before, I couldn't even wait to get my license. Nowadays, forget it. These kids don't even fucking care. I know people that are 25 don't even have their license. Bro, I couldn't. If you would have gave me my license at 14, I'd be doing it. It's bizarre. Another thing that's crazy is diners, okay? Now, obviously, that's mostly a Jersey thing, but what I miss in diners the most, now, not to mention, the one thing I hated about diners the most was the smoking section. You'd go to a diner years ago. This is before all these laws were passed that you can't smoke cigarettes indoors at establishments. This is pre-vape, pre-all that. You go to a diner, there was a smoking section and a non-smoking section. Who remembers the smoking and non-smoking section at a diner? It was basically you'd split the diner in half. You put them over there, and then the non-smoking. And what does it matter? You're all in the same building. You get a bunch of 200 fucking jerk-off smoking cigarettes over there. The smoker's just going to travel to the non-smoking section over here. Anyway, I hated that shit. Both of my parents smoked. Now, even though I ended up smoking later on in life, I never wanted to smoke where I ate. Who wants to sit there and al fumar when you're fucking trying to enjoy a meal? It makes the meal taste like shit. But I would always interject my parents and be like, give me the non-smoking. I don't want that shit. But Not only was it about the smoking and not smoking, it was the jukeboxes. Who remembers diner jukeboxes? Do you remember diner jukeboxes? That was one of my favorite things to do when I was a kid. One of my favorite things to do. We'd go to the diner with my parents and you'd have the juice box right by the salt, the pepper, and the ketchup. You could pick whatever song you want. You flip through that fucking Rolodex. You pick your favorite Stevie Wonder joint, your Nat King Cole. Put a couple of dimes, and you were just blissful. I had to sit there and tolerate the fucking cigarette smoke from the smoking section. At least I could sit there and I couldn't wait to get my turkey club with extra mayonnaise. Oh, I used to get the turkey club. I used to get a knife, the butter knife with the extra, put the extra mayonnaise on each side. Because you got a turkey club, it would give you 4 triangles like this. They'd cut the sandwich like that. And you'd put the fucking mayo on the one side, I'd put on the other side. You know it was a bacon turkey club. You have to have the crispy bacon while my tune was playing. What? Are you kidding me? Cyndi Lauper playing on the fucking jukebox while I'm eating a turkey club? While I'm sipping a Coca-Cola? I mean, you jukeboxes in a diner were the greatest shit since sliced bread. And now we got nothing. What do we fucking got? Speaking of smoking sections in diners, what about cigarette machines? Do you remember cigarette machines? The one thing that I'll never forget about a cigarette machine is the knob that you pulled to get your cigarette box. Oh my God. I loved that fucking amber. You know what it reminded me of? Whenever an establishment had a cigarette machine, they were obviously doing a fumar in the place 24/7. So that cigarette smoke would tarnish and yellow everything in sight. It would yellow your soul as far as I'm concerned. But what was amazing was the knob. It would have a clear acrylic knob that after you put your money in, you'd find the Marlboro Red or the Cools or the Capris for the ladies that like the little skinny joints, the Virginia Slims. And you pull on this fucking knob, and the knob was yellow to shit. It looked like the fucking amber piece in Jurassic Park with the mosquito inside. You pull on that thing, your box comes out, you get it, you'd watch the old man tilted on its back. Bang, bang. That sound. And it would pack in that tobacco real nice. It would recess a little bit above the edge. And then you'd watch that old guy grab it. You'd watch the ash come outside. What was better than that shit? But I loved the aesthetic of those cigarette machines. It's like they would have like these weird ornate triangle, weird vintage 70s patterns on the fucking, they were like matted tan on cream cardboard. And then you'd have the cigarette box. The designs were great. I mean, come on. Cigarette machines, I should give them for my fucking house just to have it. I don't even smoke, but I want to relive the past. Before I exit, I'm going to talk about something stupid that us kids did in high school. Who remembers the passing out game? Huh? Are you a victim of the passing out game? Because I know I was. My voice sounds terrible, doesn't it? Oh, sorry, guys. Do you remember the passing out game? Were you a fucking victim of the passing out game? Absolutely idiotic, terrible bullshit. Terrible. So for those that don't know, us kids, idiot kids, discovered something called the passing out game. Now, what does that mean? There was 2 types of kids that would do it. So you'd sit there, you'd bend over, you'd take a bunch of huffs and puffs, and then you'd blow on your thumb, which basically means what? You're just stopping the airflow and being able to blow out. And it would basically make you fade out and pass out. Kids thought it was funny. Now, some kids would do it till they just got the tingly feeling. It was almost like you were high, and they would stop at the right time. My dumbass decided to do it a couple times. And what happened? I did it one day in the back of, what the fuck was the name of it? Was it a Rite Aid? It was in Verona, where there's something else there now. I don't know if there's a Walgreens there now, something, but it might have been a Rite Aid, but there was something there like that. We were in the back. There was like a 4 or 5 step, real old, raggedy metal step. And for some reason, I decided, let me try it. This is like my first time ever doing it. Let me try it. But let me stop before I pass out. Nobody's watching me do it. So like, I'm sitting at the top of the steps. It's not like, I'm telling people to just make sure I'm all right. I just decided to do it on my own because I'm an asshole. So I do it. I wake up walking, spitting pieces of my fucking tooth out. And I look, what the fuck happened? So what happened was I did it. I got that tingly feeling that I knew that I was going to try to get. And then I fucking fainted. My friend Sam Paul, shout out Sam Paul from Cole, her purse was on the floor. I ended up falling down the steps, passed out unconscious. I smacked the fucking right side of my head on the pavement. But the piece of tooth that chipped was on this side. That's how hard it hit the ground. The shock of me hitting, the shock wave came and broke the fucking tooth on my other side. She thought I was trying to steal her purse, in fun, because I landed right on side of her purse like that. And I'll never forget that feeling I had of being a fucking idiot. I got to tell you, I did stupid things after that. But after that, that was kind of like one of the moments that I was like, all right, I got to think before I do things, because I was frightened. I remember, I never forget going home, seeing my mother and telling her what happened because I was frightened. She was like, oh my God, I can't believe you fucking stupid. But this is the stupid shit that, you kids did. But I brought that up to say, do you remember when kids, it was even on the news where it took the world by storm, where kids were getting seriously hurt because they were doing this stupid passing out game kids were doing on trampolines, the whole 9, whatever. I say that to say, that's the wrap for today. I wanted to take a trip back in time. Even though my voice is shot, my nose is clogged, I had to come out here and show out for you all. I wanted to think back on the weird little things that happened when I was a kid, a little window into my life, whether it was embarrassing, nostalgic, or even funny. As long as you enjoyed yourself and you got to reminisce with me, that is all that I care about. And if the reception of this episode is grand, then we're going to do it again. And I'll start taking notes of other stuff. Listen, this is something I love a lot. I love going back, thinking about the weird, fucked up shit we did as kids. And it's just, I love thinking about it. Maybe next time I'll go into the sodas. Maybe I'll go into the Orbit sodas and shit like that. Anyway, I love you all. Thank you so much for tuning in. I wanted to start the year with a solo episode. Got some great guests planned for the rest of the year. I cannot wait to show you them all. It's going to be a fun year. It's going to be great. And my voice will be better next time. So please, thank you so much. I love y'all. Ultra Nostalgia Part 1. If you want to make Part 2 happen, holla at the God. I love y'all. Until next time. I'll see y'all next month. Love y'all. Coño!